we got it. We did it, Lubie. We came through.
We did. Thank goodness.
Wow. I mean, that could not have been more exciting on Friday night. That was the
like
Panthers victory. You know what it reminded me of? It really did. It reminded me of that whole Nick Wallenda thing when he was going over the Grand Canyon there on the tightrope and they misgauged the wind. And all of a sudden you get like the Santa Ana winds are kicking up and they've made their way over to Las Vegas. And this guy's trying to balance himself. Now, he was sort of attached to the thing. So it wasn't like he was going to go into the bottom of the abyss there and fall like 1,500 feet. It was kind of treacherous to watch as he was praying to God. And as we've often referenced, probably the most unusual aspect of that whole telecast was that Joel Osteen was assisting from a mental standpoint, supposedly, Nick Wallenda as he went out there, and he was giving him confidence. And there were many God references, like, oh, God. And he's in the middle of the Grand Canyon there, not looking too sure of himself, wearing a pair of, like, ballet slippers and holding a rod. But I think Joel Osteen was having his rod held by Wallenda's wife.
Oh, yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Keep going, Nick. Keep going. See, Joel Osteen, I mean, yeah, he's very good at what he does, I have to say. He's very good at what he does. True. When you watch those lectures, you start to believe that, you know what, maybe Jesus can come and save me. But I don't think so.
I don't know. That's a long shot.
Time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Good to have you with us here on Appeal Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show here on ION Channel. And later on, we will connect once again with the great John Congemi. I don't know that we'll have much to talk about when it comes to football, but John, of course, also doubles as our golf analyst here on the program. And the PGA presented a very, very painful for me and interesting landscape all the way around. I did consider, I thought about taking Justin Thomas. He's always a factor. I thought maybe I'd switch it up a little bit. So under the heading and the auspices of Don't Get Cute, Lubie, I went ahead and I got cute. I took Dustin Johnson. I think you need a search warrant to find this. I don't even think Paulina Gretzky, who's now married to Dustin Johnson, could find Johnson after the second round of the tournament. I stuck another guy in there that was a stiff, Patrick Cantlay, who I rationalized had played well recently in a tournament where I think he won a tournament where they paired up two guys. They had like a teams event, and Cantlay and whoever his partner was ran away with it. And I thought, all right, the guy's playing well. So he was 11 over after 2 days. Of course. And it was Sayonara City. Even Tiger was ahead of this guy, who blew a gasket there in round one, but still managed to have all of his shots replayed later on by ESPN, as they said, okay, let's take a look at today's PGA action. So you got a guy who's 4 over, who's hopelessly out of it. It's going to be staggering to make the cut, although he did shoot 1 under the second day before really, I mean, you talk about blowing a gasket, sprung an oil leak. He needed JB stop leak there. Was that the stuff Andy Granatelli was selling? No, he was selling something else. Remember Andy Granatelli, the race car driver?
Sure.
And he would come out, and he had like a raincoat, and he wasn't wearing any clothes, and he had all of this, forget what the product it was, but it was some unnecessary automotive product that you could pour in your engine and would make no difference whatsoever. But he was hawking his stuff as if it was the salvation of every car that was ever made in America, Japan, or Germany, or any other country, England, anywhere in the world. And even that Yugo, I mean, if you poured this stuff in there.
Magic.
What is it? Andy put up STD. What was that? STD?
STD. What is it?
Was that an oil or a gas supplement?
I remember. I don't know if it was called STD. I remember. I know what he's talking about. I don't know if it was called STD.
I think it's something else when I think of STD.
It wasn't STD.
It was STP. That's what it was. STP.
Yes, it wasn't STD.
STP. It does, you know, it usually takes a lot to throw me off of my game. Now, we got off on a little late start here. There was some kind of a technical glitch, and, you know, it's Appeal Yourself Off the Mat Monday, so that might be, to use golf vernacular, par for the course. But, you know, we've had all kinds of different things happen. I certainly have incurred just about every possible thing that could go wrong during the course of a broadcast. And yet I've noticed this, the one thing that really throws me off my game, and it really puts a a damper on the start to any of my days. And just lately, this has become a problem. Like Saturday, and now it looks like today. I can't get my day started without my New York Post coming to the door. It bothers
Mhm.
me in a zillion different ways, Luby. Now, I'll go and gamble. I mean, I think between the Mustang and I, we took a nickel out to the casino yesterday. She took a deuce and turned that into about 800 playing
Nice.
slot machines. And I had three sticks, turned that into about seven playing the horses. So we had a very nice day all the way around. And yet it bothers me that I'm paying $2 a day for this New York Post. And when it doesn't get delivered,
Yeah, but you need it. Exactly. So
it throws me into convulsions almost about the fact that I don't know. Do they really give you the credit when they say you're going to get a credit for it? You have some automated thing you call, and the guy says, if you'd like the paper re-delivered, you could have that done, which I usually opt for, but they never bring it whenever they miss the thing. And then, you could opt for having a credit, and then you could call back later. I guess I'm going to call today and fetch about these credits that I'm due. Do they really give it to you? How would I know? I don't know. Do you really track like your newspaper delivery account? It was one thing when the paper was like a quarter, and when it was being delivered, it was like 10 cents a day. All right, so you can write that off or just
whatever.
shrug that off. But at $2 a copy, plus, I mean, my desperate need to consult odds and all of this other stuff, I really, it throws me off worse than, blown remotes. Not being able to connect with station, having the program director call in the middle of the show and tell you that if you don't stop doing this right now, that's going to be it. They're going to pull the plug. I told a story about how I pulled the plug in the middle of a show once while getting a call, an obnoxious call from a meddling program director who didn't know what he was doing anyway, right? I mean, you have no respect for the guy, and then he's telling you what to do. And he's telling you what to do in the middle of a show, and you're thinking to yourself, that's it. That's the end. Pull the plug. I remember pulling a cord right out from the socket there at Toyota of Hollywood. I've been in rainstorms. I've held two wires together. None of this stuff really, shakes me up. But if I don't get my newspaper, I'm not the same person for like the next several hours until I resolve the issue. And the only resolution is to go down the block there and pay another $2 and just buy a copy of it on the newsstand. At least you get the full color once you get the later edition. Anyway, a lot of stuff to cover in a short period of time. Where do you want to begin? With the good news or the bad news, Mike Lubitz? Where would you like to start today?
I'd rather do good news, but we'll probably go bad news because it's more personal.
Negativity sells in the sports talk industry, and boy, do we have reason to bitch. Although I don't know, how do you look at this? Would you say the Panthers made progress by making it into the second round of the NHL Stanley Cup chase? Now you have to win 4 rounds to win the thing, so pretty far off. They did get out of the first round for the first time, but didn't look too comfortable doing it, didn't they?
No.
Didn't they look like somebody that had to go to the bathroom the entire time they were sitting at dinner? But didn't want to get up because they didn't want to go take a dump in a public bathroom while eating dinner there. And, that gets a little obnoxious. And then you come out of the stall and there's somebody else in the bathroom. They're just combing their hair and they're like, whoa, man, get a little fiber in your diet. Why don't you? I mean, try some wheat, anything. I mean, you talk about just feeling very awkward. It was very uncomfortable getting out of that first round. The Panthers ended up winning the series in 6 games against what people deem to be the lowly Capitals, who weren't half bad. All right. And there's always a misnomer about this for some reason, because does it not look like if you transition to the NBA, what was the conversation all season long, Mike Lubitz, about the balance between the East and the West?
Yep.
The West, normally considered to be superior. I mean, they have Steph Curry over there with the Golden State Warriors. Nice configuration of talent around him. You had LeBron James and Anthony Davis with the Lakers, and they get Westbrook this year. You had the Phoenix Suns, who went to the finals last year and seemed to be blossoming in that mode where I didn't realize Devin Booker's actually been in the league. This is his 7th season already?
Yeah, he's been around a while.
Wow.
He's still young, but he's been around a while. Yep.
All right, so they've had Ayton for a couple of years. They've had Chris Paul on the roster for a couple of years. They have other players that they have developed themselves that, were servicing themselves. So, player finding nice service for the team in terms of contributions and rounding out what looked to be a very formidable roster. They're already gone from the playoffs. And all year long, all you heard about was how much depth there was in the Eastern Conference in the NBA. And now it looks kind of ironic that you would have to say, based on what we've seen so far, Looks like the Heat and Celtics might battle all the way through a Game 7. And they have Game 4, a pivotal Game 4 tonight, Louis. You would have
Yes,
to concede that this
definitely.
game would be pivotal.
Yes.
And then Golden State looks like they're breezing
course.
their way not only through Dallas, but I mean, you would have to consider them the favorites over either the Celtics or the Heat, would you not? With home court advantage and the way that they're playing right now.
Yes.
Up-tempo game, making a lot of threes. Steph Curry seems to be razor sharp. He had been injured and compromised throughout much of the season, impeded by a variety of different things in terms of his physical health, and seems to be very much on his game right now. He's hitting those 50-footers like he was in the All-Star game.
Yep.
And no matter what Luka Doncic comes up with for the Dallas Mavericks, they haven't been able to really come close.
No, they don't have
To the Golden State Warriors, even when they had like a 20-point lead in game number 2, that dissipated quickly, and they ended up losing by double digits, pretty convincing margin, and they lose at home in game number 3. So it does appear that the championship, I don't want to concede it already to Golden State, but after all the conversation about how great the Eastern Conference was in the NBA, how ironic is it that not only is it very possible, distinctly possible, that the champion will come from the West, but that it won't even be the Phoenix Suns, who had the best record all season long in the NBA. So that's a weird one. And I'm not sure how people feel. I guess a lot of people thought it was a one-horse race in the Western Conference in the NHL, with the Colorado Avalanche looking like a dominant team, while there were any number of teams, including the Capitals, that you could have given slight consideration to. I don't know that they were going to win the cup, but they certainly weren't a total setup. I mean, it wasn't like it was a patsy for the Panthers in the first round of the playoffs. So they stagger through that. They go 0 for, what was that, 22 on a power play during the Capital Series, and then managed to work that all the way up to 0 for 25 when they finally get a power play goal in game number 3. Now, they lost the first 2 at home. There's an outside shot, right? You can come back. The Rangers were down 0-2. They won on their home ice after getting back from Carolina, losing the first 2 games of the series. But at least they were in a battle. I mean, a dogfight. It was a war between the Panthers and the Carolina Hurricanes. The Lightning seem to be breezing through this thing, do they not?
Yes.
And I mean, 4-1 in game number 1. The Panthers have what? 3 goals in the whole series? 3 goals in 3 games.
3 total goals. Yes. The
This
best
was a
offense
team.
in 25 years.
Yeah, they were averaging over 4 goals a game. Only team to do it. That equates out to 12 goals. So 3 is 25% efficiency on what they were doing in the regular season. And I think it's going to bring up an interesting question. A couple of them, too. Number 1, does Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet, who sarcastically and cynically predicted that the Lightning would sweep, and after he did that, I said, you know what, Mike?
Yeah, they may.
You might be onto something.
They may.
As far-fetched as that sounds, it's probably not that unrealistic.
It's not. And now it's definitely not. But even then, after that first game, it was like, oh, wow.
Speaking of Andy, man, I don't know if Andy's a hedge fund guy, but, he does play the stock market all day long.
He's a hedge funder. That's him.
So would you not be in a perfect position to hedge? For the life of me, I don't know how desperately I've searched for this, but I've casually tried to figure out what it was that the odds were being given for the Tampa Bay Lightning to sweep. If you had gone before the series and said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and plunge on the sweep by Tampa Bay, I'm thinking you had to get at least 10-1 and maybe a little bit higher, no? Like 12-1 on something like that?
I mean, a sweep? The Panthers should have been.
Sweep.
You would not assume a sweep. Like, they were the number
if you
one.
took Lightning in 4, what kind of price were you getting? It had to be at least 10-1, no?
It had to be insane. I mean, to predict a sweep in any series is rough, especially hockey, let alone when the number 1 seed is taking on their rival for the second straight year, all the stuff that went into it. You should never have thought a sweep.
No,
odds have been nuts.
No, it may not happen. I don't know. Maybe the Lightning just mail one in game number 4, and all those people who are about to cash in on the sweep, are sitting there ready to pop a cyanide cap, much like Mike Mayo might be wanting to do, because could you get in a better position as a gambler than you're getting 10-1? I mean, we talked about this with Mark Lawrence on our Degenerate Friday shows, where even Mark Lawrence, who is very astute when it comes to, there are a couple of elements that go into any form of degeneracy, one of which I have zero ability to go ahead and practice, and that is 2 key words, Lubie: money management.
I was going to say restraint.
Money management. All right, a smart gambler is thinking about, is he getting a quality, value for his investment, and
Yes.
looking at it as an investment and
Yes.
saying, all right, I know I'm going to lose games. I know I'm going to take tough beats, but
Yes.
in general, I'm pretty confident in my selections and my research and whatever data that I'm basing my picks on, whether it's gut instinct or, a legitimate, sabermetrics and all of this stuff. I mean, the numerology that goes into it today has to have some kind of merit, does it not? If you can connect on the right approach, because look, these guys that are making the lines are too accurate for you not to believe in a little bit of the statistical foundation that goes into making odds. Does that seem like a fair statement?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you've seen it yourself. I don't know that you would have cared one way or the other. Like if I brought this up and you said, "Hey, what are you talking about, Defo?" Years ago, but after watching this for a long period of time, it's absolutely amazing how accurate these numbers
Oh,
are.
they're on it. Yeah.
And the way to beat the game, one way to beat the game would be to come up with your own numbers that are even better than and this is not easy to
Yes.
do, but if you can find an area where you just excel at beating the number that's put out by the line makers, who are making a number also with regard to which way the public is going to go, and they're not necessarily trying to overwhelmingly influence the public one way or the other, because they want the betting to be balanced.
Yes.
All right, so if they're giving you 3.5 points tonight with the Miami Heat, if the Celtics are favored, I don't know what the line is on tonight's game, but I'm thinking the Celtics are probably favored, and I'm actually thinking the Celtics probably find a way to win. Although you saw Marcus Smart, a key player in any kind of success that they might have or are looking to have. I mean, he looked like his ankle was ready to come off there when he fell underneath Kyle Lowry in that game. And now Jimmy Butler's status is sort of like game time decision. Yeah.
This is fun. The odds. This is the first time the odds makers have felt like the national media. And I get it again because we saw what happened the last time that he were up a game. The Celtics are favored by 6 and a hook.
6.5 tonight. Wow.
If I'm the Heat, I go out there and I beat them by 30. Like, this is a fucking joke. Like, this is actually getting to be absurd. 6 and a hook. Like, the Heat were down Jimmy Butler a whole half. The refs were as bad as I've ever. Like, Donaghy in that series with the Lakers Kings was more on the up and up than the Celtics, than the refs were in this series.
Donaghy would have looked like Mendy Rudolph.
The refs, there's no one that wasn't, like, even the announcers were like, wow, that was a weird call. Like, the refs were really bad, and they weren't even hiding it. And the Heat still were up outside of that one stretch where they cut it to 1 point by double digits most of the game. And it's 6 and look, I get it what the Heat did in that game too at home. The Celtics should win, but 6 and a hook. I mean, after you
6.5 is a lot of points. I mean, I would be tempted to take those with the Miami Heat tonight because
Tatum may be out, and the Celtics look haggard. Okay, that's
maybe go money line. Now, oddly, and I doubt that that's the case tonight, but I didn't get a chance because this guy is stiffing me from my New York Post, so I didn't get a chance to look at the odds there as I was getting ready for the show. But the Lightning, I think, have been underdogs in every game in this series. The Tampa Bay Lightning in their series against the Fliorida Panthers, who are laying like a giant Rodan-sized egg, are they not? You can hear it coming down from the skies there. What is that, a bird, a plane? No, it's the Panthers puking on an opportunity here. So the odds of them coming back to win 4 in a row, you would have to think Blutarski City, no? 0.0?
The odds to see them win 1. The games are back-to-back. They play again today. After they got bludgeoned yesterday. Like, the Lightning are at home, and they're now must be cocky. See them win.
That's the only thing. I mean, maybe the Panthers catch a fluke here, but if you were Mike Mayo and you had had the sense, and he's even using our quote, which is true. It's the bets that you whiff on.
Oh yeah.
The ones that you don't make, that you have a conviction about, that seem absurd. Everybody else is telling you you're crazy, right? That you have to go ahead and make those bets. Just like when I whiffed on that bet on Meshuggah. And it turned out to be a 7.5 exact on top of that. What am I always using? What Jewish terminology am I most inclined to pull out of my hat and use in a show? Meshuggah, one of the key Jewish slang words for crazy, nuts, inexplicable.
Yep.
And horse goes off with the name Meshuggah, goes off at 50 to 1. I don't have a dime on him. He's a 7 ball. The 5 runs second. My birthday numbers. And there it was. I mean, for like $6, I could have picked up 3,000 or 4,000. Would have been great. Well, but why would I do that?
No,
Because
of
I'd
course.
much rather lose on some 1-2 shot, being him on top when he runs dead last in a field of 5. Like the Phantom Plunger we were talking about, where you got 50 grand a show on Lem High Gold. Las Barrera hasn't finished off the board in any race at Santa Anita in the last 5 years. And sure enough, even with the shoe in the saddle there, Lafitte Pink Guy, he can't get up third in a 4-horse field. Unbelievable. Or it was a 5-horse field that day. And 50 grand goes out the window. Now you got to go back to square one and win your next 25 bets before you're making a profit again. That seems like a very prohibitive way to make money. I mean, wouldn't that have to be like a one-shot deal? Like you put all your money, you're like Mark Wahlberg in the remake of The Gambler, and he puts, like 300,000 on black. And you're thinking, yeah, that's a good move. I've seen that being done, though. Have you walked by roulette wheels? I love watching other people get buried.
Yep.
Especially when I've already lost all my money gambling, so I really can't participate myself anymore because the ATM machine is locked up until midnight. You guys have done this, I know, right? What time is it? 11:15? Okay, I think I'll go for a walk, sweetheart. You disappear for 45 minutes, and at 12:01, as soon as they drop the gavel on a new day, you're there picking up that $500 limit that you have on your ATM card or whatever it is. What's your limit on your ATM card, Lubie? This will tell me whether you're a gambler or not.
I haven't pushed it. I don't really take out that much cash.
Yeah.
It always was 500. I don't know what it is now.
I don't think I would ever carry cash if I didn't gamble. I guess, you have to dole out a few tips here and there. But, like if you take an Uber, I'm giving a guy an extra fin. I don't know. Is that too cheap?
No, but you can do it you can do everything digital. Like when you pay via card, you put the tip there, including Uber.
I just like to hand a guy cash right at the beginning, too. So this way he realizes, okay, these guys aren't complete stiffs. Establish that you're not a stiff, right? I mean, if you go into a bar, like if you're going to the track, right, and you're going to sit at a guy's bar all day and you're going to take up a seat for 4 or 5 hours, their move is go Jimmy Conway, right? Just shovel a 20 right in the bartender's hand before you even get started. And then you might even tip them on the check also.
Yeah. And
but you're saying, hey, buddy, I mean, I'm going to be here all day. So here you go. Make some money. Yep. And this way, to ensure proper service, right? All of a sudden, they're not ignoring you anymore, right? You're $20. It's just like that thing in Bronx Tale where, he tells C that, listen, for $20, if that guy's out of your life, you can't get a better bargain.
Yeah, it's worth it.
So let him go with the $20. Quit chasing him for it, and then just realize you're far better off by, paying $20 to get rid of this guy once and for all. It works in reverse, too. I mean, a little gratuity at the front, right out of the chute. Bingo. Everybody knows that, okay, I can count on you every time that you're here, and it works out well. So, anyway, the bets that you don't make, wow, I mean, that had to be 10-1. You'd be in a position now, what would you do if you had $100 on it to win 1,000? Which would have been realistic, right? Or even 50. I mean, if you had bet 50 on the sweep to win 500, what would you do tonight? Would you bet 100 on the Panthers? And this way, you win 900 or whatever it is, 800 profit if the Lightning sweep, and you don't lose if the Panthers happen to win a game.
Maybe you put your money down just to make sure you don't lose, because I mean that's not some huge score that you've been dealing with all year long, and like you're going to win 20 grand, and you've been dealing with it for 4 months. Do you really not win a few thousand? That I get. This, I mean, it's literally been a few days, and you're only going to win $1,000 or 500. Like, you don't want to dip into that too much, but I guess I could see.
You would want to come out of the Ben a winner because you were right.
Yeah. You don't want to be you don't want to, because the Lightning mail a game, you were on it.
Like, yeah. You don't want to end up losing 100. That's why we always had arguments with Jersey Kyle, right?
I guess you go even.
Because he felt it was the ultimate sign of wimpdom to hedge off a bet. Even if he was in a position where he could have hedged off 300, still been in a brilliant place.
Yeah,
and made himself a couple of $100 if he lost. That's the thing. You actually lose the bet if they don't sweep.
Yes.
But you're in a position to compensate yourself for that and actually make a smaller profit, but nonetheless a profit because you got to this position.
Yeah.
It's not a bad spot to be in. I mean, if you wheeled a horse in a race and you see on the board there, well, geez, if the favorite wins, I'm a dead man. I don't know. Do you hedge off and bet a few bucks on the favorite to win the race? Maybe to compensate for the fact that you're going to get clobbered if this horse wins the race. But, you were right about it's always a debatable proposition to hedge or not to hedge. As we've said, and you've heard the clip on the show, Shakespeare was into this, right? Shakespeare was a degenerate. To be or not to be had nothing to do with any kind of philosophy about life. Strictly had to do with to hedge or not to hedge. It was just a different way of putting it. And I guess they didn't call it hedging back then.
Exactly.
What did those guys bet on, man? Whether over under on whether you'd live to be 35? I mean, that had to be pretty well. All right, a lot to do on a program. The PGA was kind of interesting. You had this guy, this long shot. He was 175 to 1, and he was winning it. And he had the lead on the 18th hole. I didn't see the conclusion of this. I tuned in. I got home while they were already in the playoff there, which was a 3-hole aggregate score playoff. So there was a guy, Mito Pereira.
Pereira didn't win? I'm so confused.
No.
When I looked at it last night, it was nighttime, and they had him one, so I thought it was done. It wasn't done?
No, El Finito, man, for him. He gets to 18, and he pulled kind of a Jean Van de Velde.
Oh, geez.
I mean, he didn't have what seemed to be an insurmountable lead. He was leading by a stroke. Everybody was falling apart. Nobody was really knocking it out of the park or anything. And you can have a couple of guys chasing you that, with Zalatoris is a guy that looks like he's ready to break through and win one of these major events. And, of course, Justin Thomas, surprisingly, I think that's only his second major, and his last one was 2017's PGA, and that was his only other major. Is that possible? Mike Lubitz, Justin Thomas.
Sounds about right. He's flirted with it, but he always seems to,
something happens. I don't know. I mean, and he was one of the favorites to win going in this year. Was playing very well so far this season, and obviously extremely consistent. Scotty Scheffler was the hot guy, and he shot himself out of the thing. I think by the second day, it was improbable that he was going to win. And, then this guy came out of nowhere, Mito Pereira. He's 175 to 1. Imagine if you had 175 to 1. You just took a flyer on the guy. I never even heard of him. I didn't know he was a pro golfer. Did you?
I never heard that name. I'm like, who's Pereira?
Might have been his first entrance in a major. I know Mike Pereira. Do you know Mike Pereira?
Well, isn't that the guy, the ref guy, right?
No, Mike Pereira is the guy that was in the band that did the song Inagata Davida. Remember that? And he also did what was that? Not Sitting on the Dock of the Bay.
That was
a soul guy.
Otis Redding.
Otis Redding, yeah. No, but he had something like that. Yeah. What was that?
Mike Pereira's the ref guy too. Mike Pereira's the guy for Fox. That's annoying.
Oh yeah. No, these guys, these refs that they hire to analyze the plays. I mean, that is the most pathetic waste of money. You realize why you were booing them when they were refs? Don Koharski,
our buddy in the chat said ref. Yeah, so I don't know the Pereira you're talking about.
Who was the Flyers coach that was yelling at Koharski? It's a classic moment in hockey history where he got screwed by Koharski. He was a pretty prominent referee in the NHL. I mean, he might have been the Ed Hochuli of NHL officials, where he was extremely recognizable. And Koharski was reffing a game, and the Flyers coach is so pissed off, and they're walking out towards the locker room, the dressing room, and the Flyers coach turns around to Koharski as he's walking out into the area there where he's going to, use the locker room, and he screams, "Have another donut, Koharski," who was a little bit rotund by NHL official standards. Classic, man. You probably find this clip on YouTube. But have another, and that's all I can ever think of when I see Koharski, who's now one of these refs for networks are doing hockey that you didn't even know they knew what shape the puck was, right? TNT, TBS, and they're showing the games. But usually these officials say nothing conclusive. And is it not irritating to have the official come on and just say exactly the opposite of what you just saw occurred? And, agree with whatever the call was that was being made at the time. They rarely would say, man, did so-and-so blow that call? It would be nice to hear once in a while, wouldn't it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. It make me happy. You know, me hating the refs. I'd love for the announcers to actually agree with it when it's blatant.
Yeah. You're saying that the refs were the sixth man for the Celtics.
Oh, no, it wasn't just me.
May as well have wheeled out Hondo Havlicek.
All over Twitter, all over networks. I mean, outside of the ESPN, which is massively in the tank for Boston because they're in Connecticut, it was very clear how anyone who watched that game saw what was trying. Look, the free throws with 4 minutes left was like 28-5.
Yeah. A little bit of a disparity there. You would have to think they had missed a few things at the other end of the court. Well, they want the Celtics to win. Don't you know that? Come on.
Oh, for sure. It's
You
a
think
better
the NBA wants the Heat
story.
in the finals against Golden State?
I mean, you should.
No, they want Boston, Golden State. That's what they want.
Yes, that's what
Adam
they
Silver
want.
is doing everything in his power to arrange that and make sure that
They're
that
trying.
happens.
They're trying.
Yeah, the FanDuel people want it. Everybody wants it. There'll be more action. The Heat are, for some reason, without LeBron James,
They don't matter, yeah.
and not a very romantic matchup there for, I mean, look, they bury their games. And, you're not usually seeing them featured on ABC. Were they on ABC?
Yes, Saturday
yesterday?
was ABC, yeah.
All right, very good. All right, a lot to cover, though. Dave Hyde's going to join us. He's got the perspective on the local scene. So a disaster for the Panthers and Mike Mayo. Didn't bet the sweep. Would have taken a lot of balls to go ahead and do that. You can't really blame a guy for not thinking it was going to happen. But he came up with the idea. And as we said, sometimes in gambling, we're always screaming about coaches making adjustments, Lubie. Sometimes you just have to make an adjustment, don't you? And realize that, you know what? I wasn't wrong. This team is going to get embarrassed. But it just wasn't going to happen in that first round because they were just too prohibitive a favorite and a better team overall than the Washington Capitals. Playing poorly, they still beat the Capitals in 6 games. Think about that for a second, Lubie.
Yep.
So they were much better than the Capitals as a team. Didn't look great, but was that not an indicator that here comes trouble? It's, Max Baer coming out of the corner there against Cinderella Man, all of a sudden saying, okay, it's time to stop fooling around. And the Lightning had everything click in, even after that 7-game bloodbath against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
They screwed around early, but they came on late in that series. And Vasilevsky is the best goaltender in hockey and has the Panthers' numbers. It's not even close.
Making some brilliant saves there. Has limited the Panthers to 3 goals in 3 games. They finally got a power play goal. That was great. And then got crushed like a grape.
Yeah, there were 4 more.
So, yeah, it's Pereira thing, just to finish that thought. And he's on 18. I didn't see the meltdown, but I guess he hits one into the trees and or out of bounds. And he ends up out of the playoff. He doesn't even make the playoff, which Zalatoris and Justin Thomas end up in a 3-hole aggregate score playoff, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Louis? 3 holes. You play another 3 holes. And then whoever has the lowest score gets it. So it's not a 1-hole sudden death thing.
Yeah, but I hate when they do another. So do you want another 18? You want to? Don't they do that where they'll play another round?
U.S. Open used to do that. I don't believe they do that anymore.
That's a lot.
U.S. Open, yeah.
I think like another round. Like that's a lot.
That was always weird. I mean, did we get Mike Donald on the show that one time? Or remember we met him at the Even Keel? Came out there, Mike Donald.
Yes. We had him in person at the Keel. Yep.
Yeah. And he had one of those deals where he was in an 18-hole playoff after an impossible. I mean, he played well in the final round, and this was a Cinderella story. I mean, this was like a journeyman golfer who was on the threshold of losing his tour card, and he wins the U.S. Open, and he's good for the next 10 years, a 10-year exemption, which means that even if you're just kind of mid-pack in some of these tournaments, you're making a lot of money. As compared to maybe going on tour in Mexico, right? Here we are for the Tijuana Open, and wow, former PGA card holder Mike Donald out of Hollywood, Florida. He's got an excellent shot to win this thing. Like what? So now you're playing for like $2,500 if you win the thing instead of like $2.5 million. It wasn't that high back then, but Hale Irwin, I guess, did he end up in the playoff with Hale Irwin? Was that the one where Irwin wearing those stupid green Sanzabel slacks? Was running around the green there, high-fiving everybody while Donald was slumped over in the scorer's tent, realizing that this guy had come back. And I think, did he have to go 18? It must have been 18 against Hale Irwin the next day, and he lost that. Real tough.
That's a lot to me.
Yeah. Guys remember like every shot, but that's a crushing blow. This wasn't quite Van de Velde. Where Van de Velde was leading by 3, wasn't he, in the British Open, the Frenchman?
He had a pretty secure lead. He had the kind of lead where people were not assuming it would be touched.
He literally could have taken his putter and hit it off the tee.
Yeah,
he had like 6 shots to work with on a par 4, closing out the British Open. And instead, he went tin cup and takes the driver out, ends up in some horrible spot, puts the ball in the moat. Remember that? When he rolled his pants up? I mean, how pathetic did that look? Oddly, he ended up in a playoff, Van de Velde, where
Yes.
he subsequently lost as well. Because
Yes.
somehow, when things start to disintegrate and fall apart, people, have you noticed this?
Keeps going.
It's hard to stop the bleeding. You
Yep.
could have all the adrenaline in the world. You could have Jacob Stitch Duran in your corner, and it's hard to stop the bleeding.
Well, that was what was so impressive about the Heat Saturday, because once Butler was out for the second half, I wrote it off. And they somehow maintained the 15-point lead going into the fourth. And I'm like, look, even when they lose this game, that's impressive. Good for them. And then the Celtics cut it to 1 with, was it like 4 or 5 minutes left? And it's like, okay, it's over. And then Strus hits a 3, and it's like, oh, shit, they may not lose this game. Like, usually when it steamrolls like that and you're out Butler, and then Smart and Tatum have these injuries where they're crying and they get carried off, and a minute later they come back, which is sort of weird to come back when you were crying a minute ago, to then hit the next 3 baskets and then go back up by 8 and win is weird sports-wise. Usually once the meltdown happens, you lose.
I tell you what was weird was I didn't watch the game. I was out. And
this was crazy.
Yeah. And so I'm looking, I saw the final score was like 109-101.
Yep.
So later, I guess I woke up in the middle of the night and ESPN was replaying the game, or somebody was.
Yeah, ESPN.
And it must have been ESPN, because I don't think
was.
TNT replays these basketball games late at night.
No.
All right. So like 4 a.m, I wake up and I see there's like 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. So I figure I'll watch it and see what happened. But they must have scored like 20 points in the last minute and a half of that game. Both teams.
Yes.
Somehow. Because it was like 97, 90.
Yeah.
And then it ended up being 109, 101. And literally, there was like less than 2 minutes to go in the ball game. And they hadn't hit 100 points yet. So that was kind of weird, the way that transpired.
Well, they were fouling the Heat, and then they hit 3 threes, I think, the Celtics. So they actually kept scoring even though they were down definitively.
All right. Anyway, the Heat now a pivotal game 4, huh? On top tonight. Pivotal. 6 and a hook with the Boston Celtics. Seems like a very generous allotment of points. What is that telling you? That nobody believes that this Miami Heat team could possibly, be doing what they're doing so far in the series? You would think without Smart in there, that makes a huge difference. We saw that for the Celtics.
They haven't said yet that he's not playing, from what I know. What's interesting is the injury was really bad.
To play in this game tonight, just based on what I saw. I mean,
it looked really bad. He came back out, but again, a lot of the time we know when the injury first happens, it hasn't swollen yet. Yeah. So a lot of the times, like, guys have played on ACLs because they didn't know it yet, and then the next day it hits, and then it's hard to get back out there. I don't know. I mean, it looked rough. Like it literally, he landed on the turned ankle and then like landed on it, but then he came back a minute later. So who the hell knows? They've said that he's questionable, whatever that means.
They could probably drill 3 holes in his ankle tonight and use it as a bowling ball. Be like something you find on the racks at Don Carter Lanes. That's the worst when that thing blows up.
Yep.
Marty the Party Sachs rolled an ankle in a basketball game, a recreational game, and he's been out for 2 months.
There you go.
Can't walk, man. I mean, so this Marcus Smart, obviously in better condition than, a nearing septuagenarian Marty the Party Sachs, but you got to say, Marty's in pretty good shape if he's running full with, some of the younger guys that are out there at that park. Although it's not exactly like a regulation-sized court. Pretty much when you inbound the ball, you're at the midcourt stripe. Even if you just, like, do one of those little dump-off bounce passes to a guy who's coming back to the inbounder. All right, Hialeah Park. Wow, what a great place. Preakness, we didn't mention that. Mike Mayo did hit that with early voting. He gave that out on the show.
Yeah, I remember here. Okay, because Segredo hit it too, and I was trying to remember. I'm like, I feel like between Caton, Mayo, and Segredo, we talked about early voting. Like it wasn't this time.
Well, you couldn't help but talk about him. Yeah, he was second choice in the wagering.
Yeah.
Although it didn't go off. It was the weirdest betting race I've ever seen in terms of Fenwick, the 50-1 shot.
Yeah, people love
everybody thought the owner was just like some crackpot, trying to write a little Don Quixote type of story. Was bet down to like, I think it might have gone off 10-1, but early on was like 7-1 from 50-1 morning line. That's unusual. You're thinking this has to be some kind of Maryland juice special to have that kind of odds tumble from 50-1 down to 7-1 a couple hours to post time. Skippy Longstocking, who if he had gotten up to third, which he was a non-menacing like 5th, Skippy Longstocking, named after my dog. what was bet down also was 20-1 morning line and went off like 8 or 9-1.
Oh wow.
You had the favorite go off at a reasonable price, and what would have been better, right? Than to just go ahead and backwheel the favorite again, Lubie. There you go.
No, it didn't work out. Didn't Epicenter like totally fall off the face of the earth?
No, Epicenter ran second,
it's
and the exotics though weren't anything like the Derby because there were A, less horses, and B, it wasn't a bomb that won the race with the early voting. So you ended up getting though $13.40 in the win with the early voting, which was a very, very good price for a second choice in a race like that in a 9-horse field. And I had the pleasure after the fact of realizing that I had hit the race, courtesy of my pool money with Piscataway Ray.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he said he didn't have any great feeling for the race, so he was supposed to put up 200 for the two of us, as I did in the Derby, and he went out and made the bet, but he only bet like $60. So I said, well, we'll bet something else, I told him maybe box an exacta for 20 or something. At least put 100 in. We'll have 100 left over from the pool money for the Belmont.
Yeah.
But instead, he went back and put 100 to win on early voting.
Nice.
So I ended up cashing on that, which was good. So I'm ahead now for the Triple Crown Series, Lubie,
Nice.
after all of our fetching about.
Well,
but you can't make up for the whiff on the back wheel. Much like Mayo will never make up for this whiff. He'll go to his grave lamenting the fact that he didn't bet the Tampa Bay Lightning to sweep.
Yeah, he was right.
Anyway,
Just one series off.
What's that?
He was right about the Panthers, just one series off.
One series off, and what was even more would have been more satisfying and gratifying for him, and his despising of the Panther executive Doug Sifu, what would have been that it was an even more embarrassing fashion that they won the first round and then got to the second and looked like dog meat.
Yeah, it's
dog meat.
It isn't. You can't wipe away that first series thing if you're going to get swept the second round. Like it actually.
And you're saying they're going to, that'll be interesting to see. I don't think they get rid of this coach because he's one of the 3 finalists for Coach of the Year, and I think they're going to embrace the fact that they had this wonderful regular season and come out with some kind of statement that, well, you know what, the Lightning are tough, 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions. Obviously, if they beat the Panthers, they're in a good position to do it again and make it 3 in a row, and that's Islander-esque type of stuff. Even going back in the day into like the great Montreal Canadiens of the 16
Oilers, the whole thing. Yep.
But I don't know that there's any great satisfaction in that. I would be inclined to say if you could get a guy like Barry Trotz, who's a proven veteran, grizzled coach who knows, much like Joel Quenneville was to them when they went out of their way to get him. Although Trotz, I don't think is immersed, doesn't have his toes in any scandal that's going to pop up after 12 years like this Kyle Beach thing did. So anyway, this is all a prelude to telling you about how wonderful Hialeah Park is and how great it was. It's really wonderful to have a place that understands where the player is coming from and can accommodate what it is that you really need, which is plentiful opportunity to make your wagers right up to post time for all of the races, including the big ones like the Belmont, like the Preakness, and like previously the Kentucky Derby, where it was real easy to get your money down right up to post time for the Derby. And in other places, even if you just wanted to cash a ticket and leave, I was online for over half an hour just trying to get my money so I could get out of the pari-mutuel facility that I was at, where I was plunging earlier in the afternoon. It happens to be very close to the house. Let's face it, it was once known as the Isle Casino, and now a name subject to change. And I think they do a decent job there, but it's nothing like Hialeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because you don't have these days where it's just a dead snag. When you need the most cooperation that you could possibly get, where they're out of racing forms and they're out of this, and you can't get the drinks that you want. You're waiting online at the bar there, no one ever comes. It's absolutely fantastic, Hialeah Park, the way they treat the horse player, the way they treat the player in general. You get a player's card when you come through the door, and it gives you all kinds of entitlements, all kinds of amenities, a lot of free play, a lot of great opportunities, discounts on all kinds of things. And they put together a nice entertainment package for you, too, where people are dancing their eyeballs out Friday and Saturday night and just having a good time. The vibe alone is worth experiencing at Hialeah Park. So whether you're playing the horses, playing poker, playing the casino games there, Steve Calabro has it rocking in the casino, or you're just looking to go out and have a good time, special events, whatever it is, make sure you log on to the website there, hialeahpark.com, see all the different things that they make available to you, including just a brilliant atmosphere and a beautiful surrounding and a well-appointed casino, poker room, and simulcasting room, all happening at highly apart. All right, we're coming back with more. Dave Hyde going to join us from the Sun Sentinel, outstanding South Florida columnist and well known around the country for his brilliance. I think there has to be some kind of dabbling in syndication with this guy. No,
he's done stuff I know with the Orlando Sentinel, and I think he's been picked up in other papers across the country too.
Yeah. People are familiar with him all over the world. And great guy. He's been covering both of these series. I think he's been jogging back and forth to the home games now. So. Very, very much plugged into both the Panthers series against the Lightning and, of course, the Miami Heat's quest to get by the Boston Celtics and play for the NBA championship in what looks like it's going to be a matchup against Golden State. And then John Congemi going to join us. John had a nice pick in the golf pool, but unfortunately wasn't supported well by some of his other choices, including Tiger Woods, who finished at plus 12. But he had this guy, Fitzpatrick, who I was not even familiar with. I didn't even know who he was talking about. And he was a prominent force on the leaderboard there and ended up not too far off the pace, I want to say. Fitzpatrick was one of John Congemi's picks. Unfortunately, those two entries went up in smoke. There's another stick out the window.
He finished 2 shots back.
Yeah.
Finished tied for 5th.
That was a good pick.
That's impressive.
Yeah. Very impressive, yeah. I mean, but it wouldn't have been hard to have both. And I will say this. I considered Justin Thomas. I got cute and I went with Dustin Johnson, who was nowhere to be seen. And then Zalatoris is a name I've used him a couple of times. He hasn't done well for me, but he's particularly good in these majors, and he's a young kid ready to break through. Very gracious loser yesterday. That would have been tough to accept, huh? He loses by 1 shot in the 3-hole aggregate playoff. They both birdied. He would have lost if it was sudden death also, because Thomas ended up birdieing the first couple of holes. Whereas Zalatoris had to settle for par on the second playoff hole and then didn't hit that great of a shot coming into the green. And, it didn't really come that close to making a putt that would have put the pressure on Thomas to sink his. So interesting. I mean, very, very worthy of consideration. I thought about it, Lubie, for a second, but the rest of my guys stunk up the joint. So
where did Dustin? I don't even. Oh, there he is. Dustin Johnson finished tied 88th.
88th.
6 over.
That isn't as bad as I thought it was. I thought he was like 20 over. Patrick Cantlay was my worst guy. He missed a cut at like 11 over. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Dave Hyde going to join us. John Congemi, a lot of fun here. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. I'm going to check outside, see if my New York Post came. Otherwise, I'm going to make a very angry call to the circulation department there. And, you're getting somebody in like the Philippines there that just, got an autograph from Manny Pacquiao. And they could care less about the fact that you're all upset that you didn't get your newspaper. Yes, Mr. Deforrest. Yes, we'll do what we can. Yes, Mr. Deforrest. Right. There's no point screaming at that guy, is there? I mean, and venting all of your, anxiety and, the anger that you have over the fact that you're getting gypped. What is the point? You're always talking to the wrong guy. It's never anybody that can actually do something about it. Yeah. And do you think they care? I mean, they're feeling like a couple of hundred calls like this every day, right? It's like calling your air conditioning guy.
Yes.
And saying, hey, that new unit you put in, it ain't working. Oh, okay, Mr. Deforrest, please hold. Hold this.
Yeah.
It's worse than calling a hospital, like we always talk about with Tony Segreto when you're trying to get some doctor, and it turns out he's on a fishing vacation and is not treating the patient that you're concerned about. All right, coming back with more in a moment here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie Lubitz. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on ION Channel. Back with more in a moment. Now that. The time is 7:55. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. thank goodness for landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Subscription.
Mr. Pentangeli, were you a member of the Corleone family? Did you serve under Capo regime under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather.
Order delivery issue.
Angela, you are contradicting a sworn statement you previously made to me and signed. I ask you again, sir, here and now under oath, were you at any time a member of a crime organization headed by Michael Corleone?
I don't know nothing about that. Oh,
Yes.
I was in the olive oil business with his father, but that was a long time ago, that's all.
We have a sworn affidavit. We have it. Your sworn affidavit that you murdered on the orders of Michael Corleone. Do you deny this confession?
Look, the FBI guys, they promised me a deal. So I made up a lot of stuff about Michael Corleone, because that's what they wanted. But it was all lies. Everything. And I kept saying, Michael Corleone did this, and Michael Corleone did that. So I said, yeah, sure. Why not?
It's now time for the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. Peel yourself off the mat Monday here on the Defo Show on Ion Channel. Jeff Deforrest and one Mike Lubitz, who was despondent after the Fliorida Panthers went down, bit the dust, and now we're down 3-0 to the Tampa Bay Lightning with the series concluding possibly tonight. And you hope that maybe you can salvage a little bit of dignity in kind of a throw-in-the-towel game there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. But I'm not sure that's happening tonight. I think it might end right here. And, of course, the Miami Heat, who came back from that bludgeoning they suffered at home at the hands of the Boston Celtics and rallied, and without Jimmy Butler in the game, came back and were able to establish themselves once again with the home court and the edge in the series at 2-1, setting up yet another pivotal Game 4 coming up for the Miami Heat. Joining us right now is Sun Sentinel columnist and a man who's been covering both of these series very closely, been to, I believe, all of the home games in both the Panthers and the Heat playoff runs. So a very busy man, and always has a great opinion and perspective, and is able to illustrate what's going on with the teams and the franchises from many different angles. The great Dave Hyde joins us here on the show. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Defo, although just to correct you, I have not attended all the home games because they played at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's
So
right.
it'd be very difficult to have been at them all. But
I was thinking of previous series. Yes. Yeah, it's a strange coincidence that that happened. I don't know. A lot of people were making a big deal out of it. Is it something that came about out of lack of overall respect for one of the two teams? Obviously, the Heat with Pat Riley are, somewhat of a marquee team, although you would have thought that Adam Silver told the officials to make sure Boston was in the finals the way that last game was officiated. What do you think? Should there be some screaming and a viable reason to fetch about the fact that the schedule came out and both of these teams are playing pretty much on the same night all through the playoff series in this particular round?
well, we know the reason is always the reason in sports anymore, and it's television.
Yeah.
The NBA was set up that ESPN is going to cover the Eastern Conference Finals and on this, and here's the schedule. So the NHL, a year ago they were on, what was that, NBC Sports off on way off the stage of
C-SPAN, I think they
now
were
got
on.
TNT.
Yeah.
C-SPAN.
Yeah, right. So now
CNBC.
now NHL has TNT and ESPN, and Bettman can't go to them and say, hey, we don't want this game on. He can, but they're going to do whatever they want best. And the Rangers were the pick that what ESPN wanted on, and so the Panthers got shuffled off to. And the good news front, maybe the Panthers are happy they're some share of the night right now with the Heat. Not everybody's going to watch them anymore. So this is a bad series for them. The way they're playing.
Such ugliness, as we like to say, and all of a sudden, what was the most potent offense in the NHL in a year of extremely high goal totals all the way around the league, it was ratcheted up like gas prices, the scoring in the NHL. The Panthers have fallen literally, as flat as we like to say, as a Parisian runway model, and they were averaging 1 goal a game for the 3 games against the Lightning. What do you see? Is it possible that the Lightning weren't totally engaged all throughout the regular season, finished slightly behind the Panthers, but qualified high enough for the playoffs to satisfy themselves, and then after this dogfight, now they've really turned it on? Or is it a case, Dave, in your opinion, where the Panthers literally have done a Jerry Lewis-like pratfall at precisely the wrong time as they were trying to establish that they really had finally found themselves?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think the Lightning, they're going for a 3rd straight Stanley Cup title, and so losing a series to them isn't. It's understandable when they're that good. They're at the same time, the Panthers aren't by their own admission, they're not playing hard. They're not playing hard enough, and they're being outworked and outclassed by Tampa Bay, and the coach gets on after every game and say, well, we got outworked, or we were nervous, or something. And to be honest, it isn't just this series. Their offense, they scored 1 goal 3 times during the regular season. They were held to 1 goal. They were never shut out. In 82 games, they scored 1 goal 3 times, and they've scored 1 goal all 3 games this series against Tampa Bay, and they scored 1 goal twice against Washington. So it's not their offense hasn't been clicking all playoffs.
Dave, when it comes to other sports, a lot of the times we go to coach blaming, and I'm comfortable with that because I play the sports. I've coached a lot of sports, so I know how relevant a coach is or not when it comes to sports. Hockey, I don't know, so I try not to go to the coach blaming. But to me, if you're going to have a coach there, they must have some value. I understand they had a great regular season. I understand Brunette came in with a lot of turmoil and righted the ship, and they did win the first series. But if you then go turn around and play your rival, who you played really competitive last year, you're better this year, they're supposedly worse, and you're playing a horrendous series, and your strength is offense, and your offense is abysmal, and then the coach has nothing to say for it, to me, at some point, you can start blaming the coach, even if he is a finalist for Coach of the Year. And there's a guy like Barry Trotz who has literally come to teams like this and taken them over the hump to win a title or more. Like, at some point, where do you see this falling on Brunette, who does seem sort of lost when you're watching the games and after the games?
Well, that's the question that lands on the desk of Bill Zito, the general manager. It's how do you measure this what Brunette took over?
Yeah.
It was calamity when Joel Quenneville was forced to resign. In October, and Brunette's been an interim coach all season. And they had their best regular season, the best regular season in hockey. Their franchise's best regular season. It was a show what they put on, scoring more goals than any team in 36 years in the NHL. So how do you measure that? And getting their first playoff series win since 1996, how do you weigh that with what's happening in Tampa Bay? And I'm not calling for his job. He's won a lot, more than any Panthers coach has in their franchise history this season. but they've fallen flat. And the question really is, can the style they played in the regular season, that wide open, high scoring style, can it win in the playoffs? And that's what the hockey world is debated during the regular season. It's what they're debating now. And Barry Trotz is known for his defensive system. He's right behind Quenneville at number 3 on the all-time coaches wins list. He's won a Stanley Cup. So those are the options Bill Zito's got. And it's going to be an interesting thing. Is I like Brunette. I like the way he frames. He's very honest in his answers. There's no sugarcoating in his press conferences. There's now how he is behind the scenes, and an inner hockey strategy. You talk about they need more bodies in front of the net. They aren't playing low enough on their power play. I mean, there's all these, like in any sport, there's a million theories of what's gone wrong. To me, strategy only gets you so far. I mean, at some point, you just have to outplay talented teams. Yeah. And the Panther Stars aren't outplaying the Tampa Bay Stars. Is that coaching, or is it, for instance, to throw out a name, where's Alexander Barkov this series? Where's he really been most of the playoffs? Wherever they are, right? And you get that. Well, you bring that up, and you get the Bam Adebayo answer whenever he has a bad game. Well, he does more than you guys see, and he's more important to the team. Okay, but sometimes while the intangibles matter, sometimes the tangibles matter too. And the Panthers need goals, and here are your top 2 goal scorers. Go get some.
Brunette's answers, I mean, he looks different. He doesn't look, like he was one of the extras in the Night of the Living Dead, but some of his answers are very, it's like Joe Philbin on skates. Seems like, when he just says, oh, well, we got outworked, we got outplayed, we're going to come back and make amends. But could be, I mean, some very nondescript stuff. No?
I don't see that at all. Joe Philbin was milquetoast. Brunette is, he's giving you, during the Washington series, he said, look, we came out nervous. You never hear a coach just talk like that. We came out nervous in a big game. We were too anxious. You don't hear him say basically what he said was, we aren't playing hard enough. We just aren't. And how could you not at yesterday when you're down 0-2, you've lost 2 games in your home arena. Look what the Heat was 1-1 going to Boston, and they played as tough a game as on court. They were as tough a team as you're going to find in sports. I mean, they came out and took it to the Boston team and the crowd, the whole city, and what a game that was. And meanwhile, you have the Panthers. They're down 0-2, and they as Brunette said, they got outplayed, outworked, outclassed, out everything. So, and where does that fall on the coach, I guess, on any team? And maybe he's the one that suffers for it. But, to me, again, as I said, at some point strategy goes so far, and you just have to outplay the other team.
Pussycats is what they've been in this Tampa Bay. Vasilevsky, obviously people always point to the goaltending, and that was a scare going into the series that Vasilevsky was going to be vastly superior to Bobrovsky. The whole team, just as you said, Dave, for some reason has gone fishing already, and we'll see if they can fish up a victory tonight. Very improbable they can come back and win this series. Now, you mentioned the Heat. Dave Hyde of the Sun Sentinel with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz on Ion Channel. A little Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. And they did peel themselves off the mat. And it was interesting that we were examining naturally. You'll find this surprising, but we were curious about the point spread for tonight's game. And very little consideration being given for the fact that, Marcus Smart, I would have to think, would be, a game-time decision at best, and maybe a very dicey game-time decision, the way that ankle got rolled and then fallen upon by Kyle Lowry. And he did come back, as Lubie said, but sometimes those are injuries when you roll your ankle. You leave the court okay, and then the next day your ankle is the size of a bowling ball. But we don't know. The status supposedly is still up in the air. But all that being said, I mean, very little consideration given to the Miami Heat as far as tonight's game goes. So most people, including the line makers, are anticipating this thing's going to be 2-2, and maybe with overwhelming performance by the Boston Celtics. What do you see there? I mean, are the odds makers wrong in thinking that the Celtics are going to be 6.5 points better tonight than the Miami Heat based on what you saw in this last game?
I have no idea what's going to happen tonight, just because the last two games, well, all three games really have been somewhat of a surprise. The Heat blowing them out in game one, Boston, by halftime in game two, having a greater halftime lead than at any point in their playoff history.
Yeah,
they won 17 championships, and now that was the biggest margin at halftime, and then game three where the Heat, that was a defining win for who they are, what the franchise is, what they've built with this team. So I wouldn't sleep on the Heat. At the same time, look, this has all the marks of a series being decided by who's healthier. The Heat with Jimmy Butler and Kyle Lowry and now Tyler Hero out with various injuries, and then the Celtics with they got three guys who have been on the shelf, including Marcus Smart. Although I will say, next time I'm sick, I want those Celtic doctors, because those guys look like they're dying on the court. Marcus Smart looked like he, if he'd been a horse, they would have put the drapes around him and put out the little shot there. And same with
Tatum,
Jalen, Jason Tatum, when his shoulder, he looked like he's separated. Maybe he's lost his shoulder on the court, right? The way that, and he goes, and they come back out in 2 minutes, and they're like spry. Whatever they're doing back there, and I assume that certainly with Marcus Smart, he got a shot, because you can't roll an ankle like that and come back and run on it. And that thing had to be numbed up. Now, how it'll be, like Lubie said, the next day and tonight, we'll see. But look, the Celtics are a tough team too. They're like the Heat. It's a mirror image in some aspect that the players on that team. You have to admire how tough they're playing, and then same with the Heat.
I think Victor Conti was part of the medical staff for the Boston Celtics. And, certainly they might have borrowed a couple of trainers from the Bruins, because somehow they get those guys out there. I mean, they get their head chopped off, they get decapitated, and they just glue the thing back on and stick a helmet on the guy, and he's back out there for the third period. All right, on the other side of things, I'm watching, I don't know how much you're observing the Golden State Dallas series, but we were talking about this earlier, and we have Dave Hind with us from the Sun Sentinel, longtime sports columnist here in South Florida, and recognized for his brilliance around the world through various forms of syndication, and also has a book coming out about Jimmy Johnson, which date is getting closer on that, is it not? I mean, isn't that coming out in the fall here, as the fashion scene would say?
Coming out in the fall. Yeah,
very nice.
Coming out in the fall during football season. So. Called Swagger. You can pre-order it. It's a fun read. It's Jimmy Unleashed. So we're just putting it to print coming up here.
Now, have you gone out on a boat and had a few Heinekens while Jimmy was fishing? I mean, I would think that would have to be part of getting a feel for the vibe, that he's been living for the last many years.
We went out on the boat, went out to about 10 miles out off and caught a tuna. And
there
was a little merry band of fishermen that he goes out with. He has a few friends down here he goes out with all the time. And I went with him to one of the many corporate speeches he makes over in Tampa. Flew over with him, and he gets back on his plane, little Gulfstream or whatever, little private plane, and from giving the speech, he walks by the little fridge there, opens it up, and pops a couple Heinekens, and there we go, flying back home. So
This wasn't some crop duster, though, that you're taking across the state. And I would imagine, now, Jimmy told us, we sat down with Jimmy last year down at Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, where he did an interview with us on the radio for about an hour. And we were talking before that, and he says, it's not deadly as catch anymore for him. That he only goes out when the conditions are absolutely pristine. Like, he wants to see it flat as a pancake out there.
Yeah, he goes based on location. It's not too far a flight, and pay, and he actually went back to Dallas, which he rarely does because it turns into a sideshow, as you can imagine, him around Cowboy fans. And he went back there a couple months ago and gave a speech with Herschel Walker. It was the first time that they'd seen each other since the famous trade, and they talked together at a roofing convention or some convention in Dallas. So, but he does give speeches, but it's sparingly, because he doesn't like to leave the beautiful Keys, and who can blame him?
Yeah, who could? Yeah. Lubie, what do you got for Dave Hine?
Before we move down from the Heat, and I do want to talk a little bit about, Western Conference, the dominance that we've seen from the Warriors. But what's interesting is you brought up a name for the Heat that has been, and it wasn't maligned, has been justifiably questioned in Bam Adebayo. Look, even when Bosch was doing the extra things, he would still go for 18-8. Like, Bam doing all the extra thing, going for 10-4 and 6-9 is a joke. The guy is an all-star caliber big man, and we know what he can do on offense. So when he's not doing it, it's purely him. It's not, it's just the other team so good. No, you're just not being aggressive. And then we saw it Saturday. We saw the Bam that we know he can be, and he was a force on both ends of the floor. And he really is the one that stemmed the tide outside of Victor Oladipo's defense when Jimmy Butler got hurt. And I was at home applauding him, and it was really great to see. And I'm just wondering if that's the guy that we continue to see the rest of the series now that we know he knows he can do it.
He said those exact same things, that he let his team down after game 3, after Saturday night. He got on and said they felt like he let his team down the first 2 games. So will he be who he was in game? We've seen 2 games where he hasn't been, in one game where he's been great, and one game that's more in character with what he's been for the Heat, and so your guess is as good as mine. Did he solve something, and the Heat solve something about the Celtic defense, or is it just a matter of being assertive and aggressive like he was from the start? I mean, he's the one who built their lead and the early lead and defined, okay, here's how the game's going to be played. And that's Adebayo that, they need. Him running point guard and defending 1 through 5 players on the other team is great. I mean, that's a talent few players in the league have, but they need his points, especially, if Butler isn't 100%, they're going to need Adebayo as a force.
Dave Hyde with us here on the Defo Show. We started to say before we were talking a little bit about the book there coming out with Jimmy Johnson, and I was asking if you'd seen much of Golden State in their playoff run so far, and then, of course, in this series against the Dallas Mavericks, where no matter what the Mavericks throw at them with Luka Doncic, they seem to have more than the ability to fire back with even more, and have dominated the series so far to the tune of 3-0. We were talking all season, though, about how great the Eastern Conference was, and now it seems like, just if you were looking at the way the circumstances are shaking out, you would have to favor, slightly at least, Golden State over Miami or Boston, the way they're performing and having home court advantage. So what do you think? I mean, is Golden State ultimately going to be the champion from what you've seen, or do you think this is going to be, a highly competitive series either way with Miami or Boston going against the Warriors?
I think it'll be a great series because you put Boston's or the Heat's defense and tenacity on Golden State's offense, and that's going to be a great matchup. Either one, whichever team goes out there. And you look at Dallas; they don't play defense. They don't play hard across the board like the Heat in Boston do, and physical. By Game 7, we're going to have more injured players on both teams. As hard as they play, the Heat and the Celtics are playing. So again, it'll be who's healthier this series and who's healthy going into Golden State. But I think it'll be a great series. Whoever comes out of the East playing Golden State.
All right, should be a lot of fun. Hopefully it won't be doomsday today for the Florida Panthers. I'd like to at least see them salvage a little dignity and put up a fight in this series against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but that appears to be somewhat of an unlikely possibility. And Mayo is ready, for a cyanide cap, Dave, because he sarcastically predicted a sweep.
He did.
Yeah. He said the Lightning were going to sweep, and we said, yeah, you know what? You just were slightly off in your thinking. You should have gone ahead and laid the money out on it. I nearly sprung for this, so I guess I'm laying off some of my own guilt on Mike Mayo. But he has to find it regrettable.
He's already wrong on the Panthers. He predicted them to lose at Washington, didn't he?
He did, yes.
But the interesting thing is, so the NHL analysts on TNT, all of them picked the Panthers to win the series.
Of course they did.
All of them.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're on ESPN as analysts. There's a Mike Tannenbaum syndrome there.
And I'm sitting there watching, and there's a penalty. One of the Lightning took a cheap shot, cross-checked I forget who into the boards, the Panthers, and they're all the game analysts and the referee analysts are saying, "Oh, that's a major. That's not even a question." And it comes out the referees rule it's a minor, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't want to hear anybody say I don't know hockey anymore. Okay, they're getting it wrong. All of them are getting it wrong. So I guess it's just too hard a sport to analyze.
Well, Barry Melrose.
I do.
Yeah. Melrose for a long time was a human kiss of death because you could routinely go the other way for anything he predicted, and I have respect for his knowledge of the game. I mean, he might be losing it a little bit. Some of the names don't come in and pop into his head as quickly as they used to, and he'll slough over a couple of things, and they let it go with Barry now. But he did win a Stanley Cup, so he knows the game with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And did he win one as a Kings coach also? Is it possible that did Barry Melrose win 2 Stanley Cups? I know he won the one. Anyway, I've had great respect for him, but whatever he picked, you could go the opposite way. Whether it was an individual game or a series in the postseason, he was always dead wrong, and that seems to be the way that it goes when it comes to hockey. And yet they want to disparage you, Dave Hyde, for not knowing what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, you make one little mistake and you don't understand the handful of hardcore Panther fans are all over you. So God bless them. I was hoping the Panthers would get a bandwagon effect this postseason.
Yeah,
and they got a little bit of it with one series win, but they've gone downhill. I just hope they play more in character with who they are tonight, and you get to see, okay, even if they're not going to win the series, they go out with some dignity and some measure of, okay, this is the team we saw all year.
Oh, they need a Knute Rockne speech. What are you talking about? I mean, let's go out there and win one for the Gipper.
Please.
For God's sake. I mean, something has to give here. Have a little bit of pride. All right, Dave, always a pleasure. We take a lot of pride in having you on the show because you're so great at what you do. And I've been doing it at a very high level for a long, long time and continue to just crank out great illustrative stuff about what's going on in the world of sports, especially here on the South Florida scene. Always a pleasure, my friend. Good luck to all of us tonight, and thanks for being with us on the show.
Thanks, Hyde, man.
All right, Defo. See you later,
Thanks
Lubie.
a lot.
Thanks for having me.
You will.
Dave Hyde, ladies and gentlemen. So he's getting lambasted by Panther fans.
He was right because he's probably been honest, and the Panther fans fooled themselves. Like that's the funny thing. We were high on them winning the first round because how could they not win the first round?
I
But
thought they
we
would win the
never-
first round. Yes,
We
and they
never
did.
boasted about the second round, never. And Mayo
No.
was all over this bet, and I'm like, there's no way. After whatever the hell that was, that first round, where they almost lost to an old haggard Capitals team, I have no trust in them versus the Lightning, and we've been proven right so far.
I don't know what drug I was on at the time, but it hit me like a ton of bricks when I was on my walk of life that Mayo was right about something.
Yep.
And that, you know what, as onerous and as ugly as it was to conceive that the Panthers would get swept in the second round, that if you were going to be a betting man, which we encourage, or a woman. Did you notice this? This came from Jim Sarney, but also I read it the next day when my post was being delivered. And that was that women are applying in greater numbers for sports betting apps than men are.
Man, yep.
Now, is that because women are the ones that are establishing new accounts because guys have had accounts forever?
I think
that could
that's
be.
not taking into account the fact that guys already had accounts.
Yeah,
Like I think that's what it is.
I was sending money into some jungle in
Exactly.
Colombia.
Exactly.
Is Juan there? Yeah. Can you get me down 200 on Duke tonight? Why would I be betting Duke? And why would they even know what the hell you were talking about, except for the fact that they had some? I mean, I always just pictured like this phone bank boiler room with a bunch of wise guys in the middle of this Colombian jungle somewhere, right up there. You've been there, right outside of Barranquilla, my friend, right by the street vendors. All right, we're coming back. John Kinchemi going to join us, man. We've been missing John on the show. He adds an element of dignity and class to the program that we otherwise would not be able to in any way generate just between Lubie and me. So we're very happy to have John with us here today. Brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. That's mile marker 104. Was there ever a time you saw Jimmy happier than when he was sitting at the Big Chill there, holding court in his own place? Where Larry Calvano and Dominic and the whole Kinchemi clan was down there. It was absolutely fantastic. Amanda and, I mean, really, really good people. And the vibe there that you get is just absolutely, I mean, isn't that kind of what you're looking for? You want to be in a great atmosphere, wherever the hell you happen to be.
Yes.
So if you're in the Keys, you're already kind of taking a giant step towards being in a utopian type place. And then when you go to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, that's it, man. You'd think you were meeting Thoreau himself.
Exactly.
Right? Hey, Henry. Yeah, next one's on me.
God.
That's the way it is down there. It's just
Yes.
absolutely fantasy land. And so we'll tell you more about that in just a few minutes here on the show because we want to bring John on in just a minute. And we're going to do that. John Kinchemi, we normally call it Dateline Dolphins. Not much datelining with the Dolphins right now or football, but John also doubles as our golf analyst and came up with this Fitzpatrick guy.
Good for him. That's impressive.
I was thinking, who the hell is Fitzpatrick? Is that Ryan Fitzpatrick?
I was going to say Mark Fitzpatrick, the goalie.
Mark Fitzpatrick, the goalie? Are the Panthers signing him because Bobrovsky's blind in one eye, we discover? All those pucks are coming in over the right shoulder.
There's a reason.
I wonder if you can see the big E on the eye chart, right? We should just hold up a giant E in front of Sergei Bobrovsky and say, hey, Sergei, what's this? Looks like F. Okay. Well, I mean, you go ahead and extrapolate out on that. Back with more with John Kinchemi, a little Dateline Dolphins and a hybrid edition of that coming up in a moment here. Now that.
The time.
8:29.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
This here on the program, along with John Congemi, and it's Dateline Dolphins, of course. Leslie Visser, the lovely and talented one.
Did you ever try to recruit Kelly when he was leaving Oklahoma to come to Miami?
Yeah, I tried to recruit him 3 different times. I was in his home as sophomore in high school. I had him in our camp, and I gave him the award as the best camper.
that was a good thing.
Really? I gave him a trophy.
Camper.
He was the best camper, and I gave him the trophy. If I could have given him a couple $1,000 if it had been legal.
Hey, Troy, look underneath the zipper.
Yes. But he ended up going to Oklahoma. So then with Miami, we broke his leg, and so he was going to transfer because Switzer wanted, the little quarterback that could run fast, Jameel Holloway. And so I called Troy and I'm trying to get him to come to Miami. Well, his father lived in California, so he went to UCLA. So when it came time to draft him, there wasn't any question. He was going to turn me down this time.
Enjoy your trip to work with lots of laughs thanks to Defo and Lubie. Now on the Defo Show.
There he is. Wow. Looking good, this kid, huh? A couple of weeks off, and seems like all of the, stress has just been relieved from John Congemi. Not that, are you ever anything but the epitome of calm? We welcome John Congemi to the show here, brought to you by Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Of course, John, quarterback at Pitt, played in the pros there, Canadian Football League, and longtime football analyst on ESPN. What was it? Like your dad said 25. I think you were telling me 21 years, ESPN.
Yeah, it's closer to that. I think it's 21 and a half, maybe trending to 22. Let's put it that way.
All right, very good. And, here you are with us on Dateline Dolphins. Now, how you been? What's going on with you, John Congemi? That's the first question.
You know what? Just been busy with life. Working a 9-to-5 grind is pretty tough, but it's been great on the weekends. Got to go out and enjoy some golf. And actually, guys, I didn't do this behind your back, but I have to come clean. I visited Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
And it was spectacular. And if you can imagine, my brother Dominic on the microphone, Larry on guitar, and me just shoveling oysters down my throat with a Heineken Light, just taking it all in with my family. And it was great. We had an awesome time. And they're just gearing up for Memorial Day weekend. Amanda's getting the place looking great, and they just got it rolling down there.
I thought maybe you just, grab a stool and sit in on the skins there or something. That would have worked.
It would have been
probably,
nice.
With your athletic ability, you probably coordinated enough to tap out a basic rock and roll beat, and you could have backed them up on some of those U2 numbers that they were doing.
Yeah, the band was incredible, and it was a perfect night. Had a nice sunset, and Jimmy Johnson's is gearing up for the summertime. The Big Chills never look better. And I didn't have the Fisherman's Pizza, guys, but I did have a little pepperoni just to wash down the appetizers that we enjoyed. So it was a spectacular night, and our family enjoyed it.
All right, sounds good. And was there any discussion about us coming down there for the show? Or
there was. Is that off the table? Anytime.
Oh, okay.
You should, yeah.
Has there been any sign? There's a search warrant out and a missing persons report on one Thomas Q. Fox, who used to be able to find. When he was, did you throw him an occasional pass after he was doing all that hardcore blocking when he was a tight end there at St. Thomas?
Yes, I did. I think my last high school touchdown pass went to Tom Fox.
Is that right?
Yes.
Did he sell you the ball back?
in high school.
Yeah.
Like
Tom
Joe
just
Rose did with
usually-
Marino. I mean, what
Back
happened
then, he
with that?
just usually signed his name with an X, so I wasn't sure I was taking it.
I think he still does on some of those stock transactions that that he does. All right. Have you? I mean, you were on championship teams. Could you have ever seen like the St. Thomas High School team coming to the state championship playoffs, and just all of a sudden having a complete reversal of form, even though you might have gotten by the first game, against some school from outside of Loxahatchee, and then you're taking on the second game. Have you ever been on a team that just went dead flat after having a sensational season? It seems impossible that the Florida Panthers, very sketchy, even though they prevailed in that first, round series against the Capitals, and now almost, looking nothing like the team. They look like the Washington Generals on skates.
Yep.
That they were performing so far against the Lightning, and they had all the elements going for them, right? They finally got over the hump there, got a first-round playoff series, maybe a chance to get organized, a bitter rivalry. They hate these guys. There's bad blood between the two teams. Could you imagine being on a team that just had a complete reversal of form after what looked like a championship season?
Well, you could imagine that. Things happen like that in sports, Defo, and it's a dynamic you just can't put your finger on, because if you could figure it out, you'd change direction and you would do it immediately. It's just one of those things where it looks like the Florida Panthers, to me as a big fan, my son's on the coaching staff. My son's part of the video team that helps them on a
Get
daily
out of here,
basis.
man! What don't you have your hand in, Jimmy?
Yeah. So I'm involved. I mean,
Wow.
I was in a state of depression yesterday because of the loss, and it just looks like they're a skate or two behind. It looks like the passes are just off the mark, or they're just the stick handling, just something's not the way it was. And I don't know if it has to do more with the Florida Panthers or maybe who they're playing in the second round of the playoffs, because I was thinking back and looking at Tampa Bay's season, and it seemed like you always you believed they were going to be a good team, a championship team, but for some reason they just didn't have that it factor this year. Well, all of a sudden the goaltending goes from above average to through the roof, and maybe that ignites something else in some of those veterans that they've had, because the Florida Panthers, it's not like the score hasn't been indicative of the way the games have been played. If the Florida Panthers get a couple of bounces in one or two of those games, this series might be 2-1 the other way, or at least 2-1, where you have a chance going into game 4 now to tie the series. But they just haven't, sometimes you say that, you have to create your own luck. I don't think the Panthers, they've done a little bit of that, but they just haven't done enough to get that puck luck going their way in the second round of the playoffs. And now they're, it's a monumental hill they're trying to climb down 3 games.
And I know your son's not going to tip hand and give away anything, but has he noticed anything different between the way the team is acting? Because in this regular season, there was a reason they were coming back. They were loosey-goosey, and it feels like, and Brunette said it even back to the Capitals series, where they're coming out nervous, which is the total opposite what this team did all year. Like, has he noticed anything different in the morale? Because it feels like this team is really tight, and the Lightning are just letting it fly.
No, I don't think so. I really haven't gone there, but I just in my opinion, I don't think they're playing tight. I just don't think they're playing with the execution they had when the middle of the season, when they were at their peak, when they go through this 3-game skid at home. I think they lost 3 in a row. And then all of a sudden they turned it on the road, and they turned it on at home, where they were averaging 4.5 goals, a game right here in Sunrise. And that it just doesn't seem like they've been able to just take, for instance, yesterday's game. There's a wide open net. Huberdeau is going to score. I mean, it's going to be a no-brainer goal. And the Lightning stick, McDonough's stick, just happens to be in the traffic area. It clips it, and it misses a wide open net. Those are the types of things that went the other way for the Panthers during the regular season. And during the playoffs, as you guys mentioned, even against the Capitals, it seemed to be a little bit of a struggle, although you felt like they were going to be able to be good enough to get over the hump. Well, now you're facing a team that hasn't given up more than, one goal in the last 4 or 5 games that they've played, going back to the Toronto series. They get a hot goalie. They get a team that knows they need to score 2 or 3, and it's going to be good enough to win because of the way their defense and their goalie's playing. And they're playing a team that struggled on the power play. So you add all those things up, you're down 3-0. And like I said, if the Panthers had a little bit of that puck luck, it's 2-1 right now, because they've played well enough in stretches of games to, kind of capitalize on their offensive chances. They just haven't been able to do that when they needed to. And that's been on the power play, because in my opinion, if they're even close to even on the power play, this is a different series.
What a bloodbath it is to try to win that championship, though, the Stanley Cup. I mean, think about it. This is only round 2. The Lightning, as well as they're playing and looking dominant in this series and looking like they might just go ahead and sweep the Panthers out with a win tonight and put them out of their misery under the they shoot horses, don't they, principle. We're life and death to get out of the first round. And even if they coast through this series, they're still facing a treacherous path, either Carolina or the Rangers. With Carolina up 2-1 there and being a very competitive team during the regular season. And then out of the West, I mean, everybody was thinking Colorado was going to do it. And it looks like they're playing the best of anybody in terms of, so far annihilating their competition in the postseason, even though they finally lost a game, but 6-1 so far. But, I mean, you look at what it takes to win the whole thing. And, I mean, getting swept in the second round still leaves you, pretty far off in the distance, especially since we thought that this was going to be a year of redemption for the Florida Panthers if they got their hands on the Lightning, which unfortunately for them, last year it was round 1, and now this year it's round 2. And they just keep running into a brick wall against this much hated and despised cross-state rival.
Yeah, and it's been, going into this series, you're kind of wishing you get that rematch. I was kind of wishing for Toronto, because the goalie isn't, not that he's not as you should be, but he's not the best in the league. He looks like, that commercial when the walrus is just hanging in the net, that's what you feel like sometimes when you're going up against Tampa Bay when he's playing that way. There's just no room. And even when you squeak one by him, it seems like there's a defenseman there to knock it out of the way, or it'll hit a post, or it just won't get in. And, the puck's not bouncing for the Panthers the way it had in the regular season. And, it only takes 1 or 2 goals to kind of turn it around. But this is now a tough mountain to climb down 3 games.
Yeah, Mayo's scratching his head. I don't know if you were aware that, he was contemplating betting the Lightning to sweep, which I think you could have gotten some very generous odds on. We're thinking in excess of 10-1, maybe even a little bit higher if you had Lightning in 4, and he would be sitting on the threshold of. He could have insured himself a win with a little bit of hedging off here. Now, how'd you come up with this Fitzpatrick guy? I was looking at that pick by John Kajemi. Now, we didn't do well in the golf pool on the PGA tournament. Of course, I thought about Zalateros, whiffed on that. I'm looking at that one list, which had Justin Thomas. I think it also had Spieth, and I took Dustin Johnson, who did a vanishing act. But it could have very easily tapped 1 and 2, but you came up with like a mystery guy there in Fitzpatrick. But what do you think of the tournament? Because it was sort of Van de Velde-esque, was it not? Where the guy's standing there on 18, and he had a pretty considerable lead. Didn't he lead by like 3 shots going into the last round? And he still has a 1-shot lead on 18. Now, it wasn't Van de Velde who could have like used a putter and still won the tournament. If he had just teed off with a putter, he would have been better off. But guy falls apart, ends up out of the playoff, and Thomas survives over Zalateros by a shot.
Well, it was great golf, because the drama comes down to the last hole, and you felt bad for a guy that had, swung the golf club so brilliantly for 3 days, 3.5 days, and then you make one swing, and it puts you in a position where, wow, here comes the next one, and here comes the next one, and he doesn't get into the playoff. It was disappointing, highly disappointing, I'm sure, for him, because he felt like, you hit a fairway and a green and the tournament's yours. All you need is a par, and you don't get it. And you don't even get a chance to redeem yourself in a playoff. And then Justin Thomas comes along and wins, after the aggregate 3 holes. So it was an entertaining tournament, I would say, for a major championship. The weather was, hot and then cold, and with the drama of Tiger Woods not being able to finish. I don't know how I can. I think my son put Fitzpatrick in my ear, and he was the one that kind of helped me pull the trigger on that one, because I took the cheese with Tiger Woods, and he ended up grinding it out in that second round to make the cut. So really, I had Thomas, Fitzpatrick, Lowry, Neiman, Hovland. Scheffler was the guy that I figured he was going to make the cut no problem, and he double bogeys on Friday, the last hole to miss. So, I might have gotten
stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
I might have gotten everybody in, not knowing that Tiger was going to withdraw. But, Fitzpatrick was not, I will say, Defo, coming clean, it was not my pick. I had help with that
one. As often is the case whenever, somebody's approaching brilliance. And very noble of you to go ahead and pass the credit along. Now, is this the same son that is looking at, was looking at 0 for 25 on the power play on video and trying to assemble the highlights there so Burnett could figure out what the hell to do?
Yeah, I had to have a conversation because I was looking at the list and I was a little confused. I knew I wanted to go with Tiger.
Yeah.
But there were so many people in that other one. I said, I need a wild card. I'm kind of going chalk all the way around. And he goes, well, either Fleetwood or Fitzpatrick are going to be good because it's going to be windy. It's going to be, that type of European, And I said, well, I don't know. I don't know
who the hell is Fitzpatrick, though? I don't even know this guy.
English golfer. This guy's really a great golfer. He hasn't won in the U.S., but he's won in Europe a ton.
All right. I mean, good pick by you. I mean, you came up with Neiman a while back, and he was like leading the tournament. You're very sharp on this, even though so far it's been a burial. But we're gonna line up again for what is now known as the Open, and then of course there'll be another one coming up on the U.S. Open later on. Now, are they playing a U.S. Open before they play the British Open?
No,
that can't be.
Usually the PGA is the last one.
Yeah,
and they changed that a couple years ago.
A lot of people were fetching about that. I didn't really mind it either way because I wouldn't have known.
I always thought the U.S. Open was late June, and then the Open Championship was in July. So I think that's the rotation now.
All right, and this guy, it turned out Mito Pereira. He came out of nowhere. He was 175 to 1. I don't think he was even on any of these lists, to choose from there because they don't list every player.
Candidate, in.
You imagine? I mean, if you came up with that, but he ended up not winning the tournament. And what is it about like a guy standing on 18 with like his first real shot at glory? Not always even that. Like Colin Montgomery, didn't he blow a gasket on like 16 or 17 when it looked like he was going to finally win a major? And they were always talking about what a stiff he was. He had never won an American tournament.
Mickelson, I think
Mickelson, the same thing. Yeah,
when he makes 6 or 7 on the last hole, and
it's amazing. How often that happens. It's the same thing like in tennis. You can probably see the glare in the background there, but I'm watching a little early action in the French Open, which is one of my favorite sporting events to follow. And, I mean, serving for the set, serving for the match, no matter how brilliantly they've been playing all the way through and dominant on the serve, all of a sudden, when the money's on the table, even the best of the best find themselves, I don't know. I mean, it's phenomenal how many times that happens where either the opponent rises to the occasion if it's the big star and finds a way to break serve or, come through with a clutch birdie or, the person that's trying to make that jump forward ends up just gagging on it and then becomes a footnote in the agate. Later on. John Kachemi with us. Did you ever, I don't know, are you a fan of the Tim Tebow speech? I wanted to get into this with you because, you've been in that football environment at this level where, motivation might be the difference in a game. But I was trying to motivate myself. My son's been kicking my ass in tennis. And I thought, well, what can I do? I mean, I'm obviously not going to get any more physically capable of beating a guy. So it'd have to be a mental thing. And I thought, let me look at that Tim Tebow speech because did that work?
You looked at
no, the Tim Tebow speech where he was whining and fetching like a little crybaby.
Was that at halftime? At halftime?
No, that was after the game. They lost the game for like some team that they were supposed to beat.
Yeah.
and he said, "No one will ever play harder. No one will ever work harder. I will never lose another game. No teammate will be a better teammate." I mean, like it was utter like kindergarten nonsense, right? Like some screaming little kid kicking, while he was face down on the ground in the yard there, right? Oh, mommy, and. Why is that like a speech of legend? Now, would you ever find yourself turning to the Tim Tebow speech if you were trying to find inspiration in any walk of life and endeavor in the future?
No, I don't think that's ever entered my mind to turn to the Tim
Tebow
Tebow
speech.
speech. Not that it might not have been a good speech. I don't remember hearing it from.
No,
start
it
to
was
finish.
terrible. It really was.
I always get clips of it when you're looking at college football, and Ole Miss happens to be playing the Gators, and they got to get a Tim Tebow reference in there, so they put it on, and it's I mean, it's probably heartfelt and it probably motivated a lot of the guys in the moment and all that stuff. But if you're losing to your son in tennis, that's probably not where I would. I probably have
maybe
you
go
a
Rockney,
couple points. Start at 30 love, and then let's go. Come on, son.
Exactly.
I can't have him spot me points. I mean, maybe replay Angelo Dundee to Sugar Ray Leonard, one of the great motivational moments in all of sports history, when he just says, "You're blowing it, kid. You're blowing it." That's the way to go. You don't think the teammates like mock Tebow? I mean, here they are at the University of Florida. He's a quarterback, and I mean, not to get into kind of a religious debate there, but taking a vow of celibacy before you enter as the starting quarterback of the Florida Gators. A good-looking kid, too, that obviously was going to be attractive to any female, even if he was like a philosophy major or whatever. And he goes 4 years there without consummating the deed there, John Kajemi. I mean, the odds of that would seem impossible, I would think. Not to imply that you were messing around at Pittsburgh there, but you are a good-looking kid, my friend.
You would think the odds were stacked against that happening. But, I don't know. I don't know Tim all that well.
University of Florida.
Yeah.
Come on, John.
Yeah, you could actually, it could be an accident around
could
the corner on the weekend. Yeah.
Exactly. You could be going out to get a Coke. I mean, not a vial of Coke, but like an actual soda. See, no, at Pittsburgh, I don't know. Was it the same as it was? And I don't know what your relationship status was, but I mean, this would apply to other guys that were there as well. But at Syracuse, you had to, kind of meet a girl at registration for the fall semester, because you weren't going to be able to recognize anybody once it got to be October, because everybody was so bundled up.
January and February was a mad meet and greet time in the Northeast, right?
Oh, it's ugly, man. I mean, everybody's got parkas on, and they look like they're going on some kind of Eskimo safari instead of to a mixer. But anyway, I don't know why I've been thinking about that Tim Tebow speech, because it just bothers me that the University of Florida actually etched that in stone on one of their institutional buildings of higher learning.
They did.
As if this should be observed by everybody. It was one of the classic speeches of all time, which far from it. All right. Any steam now? I mean, the Dolphins, they get this pass rusher.
Yes.
Which, I mean, what else can they do right during the offseason before we actually see this thing unfold where people still, and you surprised me, John Kajemi, last time on the show that you're not sure that the Dolphins win 9 games this year in a 17-game season.
Well, I do think it's going to be tough for the Dolphins to win double digits this year, only because of who they're going to, the opposition and the way they start. It's New England at home, it's Baltimore on the road, it's the Bills at home, and then I think it's
Bengals on the road.
The Bengals on the road, right, Lubie? Thank you. So I that's a tough start. Now the entire AFC is a tough sled this year, because you've got the AFC West, I believe, in certain instances, and the Chargers are going to be good, the Broncos are going to be good, all those teams out west, the Raiders are going to be good. Kansas City's going to be good. They're all going to be around 9, 10, 11, 12 wins. And no matter how you shake it out, those teams are going to be dominant. Now, you take the AFC East, you've got the Bills and the Dolphins are jockeying for, second fiddle in the AFC East. So Where does that shake out when you play Cincinnati, the Bengals, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens? You've been notoriously poor against the Ravens. Last year you get a W at home. This year you go on the road early. So that might be a 50-50 chance. I do believe, to your first point, Defo, the Dolphins have improved. They pulled all the right levers in terms of getting people on this football team that are going to impact wins and losses. Melvin Ingram, the last guy, a defensive specialist, rush end. Maybe he plays 15 or 18 plays a game, but it's going to be on third down. And they told him to come in. Don't worry about the run. Get to the quarterback. So they're going to give him opportunities opposite Emmanuel Ogbah with Jalen Phillips, with Van Ginkel. I mean, and you've got Jerome Baker coming from the linebacker spot. That's going to be hard to corral. So they're going to be able to apply pressure to the pocket to opposing quarterbacks, and they're going to need to, because they're going to play an upper echelon of quarterbacks this year. So they've done all the right things, and they've surrounded Tua, coming into the season with a lot of firepower on the offensive side. I mean, you go and get Sony Michel as a leftover. Come on, that's just going to add to what you do running the football. And I do believe the philosophy of this offensive line is going to help this team. It's not a man-on-man blocking scheme. It's getting more athletic with your offensive linemen and running off the football so you can create daylight for your running backs. It's not, hey, hit this hole, and that's where, the only place you can go. It's wherever you see daylight, get it with speed, and that's what they've acquired at running back. They have a ton of speed at running back. So any little sliver of a hole or daylight that this running back can get to, not only is he going to get to it, but he's going to get through the back end of it. So if that offensive line can adapt to this new scheme of the way that McDaniel, wants to do things offensively, it's going to have some success. It's going to take some pressure away from Tua and having to, dependent on making third and long opportunities. At least you can run it, you can play action, and you can get rid of the football quickly with now guys that can do something with it. You've got Tyreek Hill, who I've watched a couple of days of practice, looks phenomenal. I mean, this is like a fire plug that's the fastest human, on the field anytime he's on the field, with Jalen Waddle and with a guy like Mike Gesicki, who now has more room because he's got, double-barreled slots that can move anywhere on the field in any formation. It sets up to be an interesting year for the Dolphins, and they're going to have to get through that early schedule if they're going to get to, like, a lot of the the pundits around the country talking 12 wins, 11 wins, maybe 10. If they get through the early part and survive on the road at the end of the schedule, because that's where it gets tough, a lot of games away from Hard Rock Stadium, that's the two bookends of the schedule. They need to somehow come out with a winning record.
Oh, I would think so. I mean, an excellent assessment there, but I would think it would be a colossal disappointment if they didn't win 10 games or more. Simply because, I mean, you traded all of this draft capital to get Tyreek Hill. So, I mean, you basically said, all right, this is it, man. We're going for it.
Yep.
We're not going to develop guys over the next 3 years and get all of this young talent that is part of the original tanking philosophy that you're going to rebuild from scratch. But with, high quality scratch, they shoved all in. And I would think that if they didn't win 10 out of 17 games, like a 10-7 record would be a very modest accomplishment for a team that went 9-8 last year.
Here's the thing, Defo, like on offense, when you have new scheme, new philosophy, new terminology, all that stuff, new players, beginning of the seasons are usually
true.
Tough. They're usually not, the way you're going to be in the middle of the season or at the end of the season, when you start rolling and you have more familiarity, because you don't really go live enough to know what it looks like, right? Usually defenses are ahead of offenses. So it bodes well for the Dolphins if they can, hold New England and Mac Jones down, early, if they can get to Lamar Jackson the way they did last year and hold them, not running the football, not completing a high percentage of passes, getting a lot of third downs, keeping the Dolphins offense in the game. If that happens, they may come out 3-1 early, and now you feel like you got a a head start on it because you haven't really hit on all cylinders on offense. So that's the kind of part I'm talking about. Early schedule, new offense, new scheme. How well do the players that they have adapt, and how fast can your defense start to maybe steal you a game or two at the beginning of the season?
I'm Bobby Knight on this thing. I'm sick and tired of losing to the Buffalo Bills.
The last few years.
Right? Remember that famous, there was another great speech. Now, that was an inspirational speech. I'm sick and tired of losing to Purdue. All right, John, always a pleasure, man. I'm glad you got down to the Big Chill. I hope you said hello and sent our regards to all the great people down there. Absolutely fantastic. We can't wait to get down there. I mean, we don't consider that you snuck out on us because it would have been hard to lure me away from my casino setting yesterday, pounding away on the ponies. But nonetheless, if there was an option, that would have been a fine alternative to get down to Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, Overseas Highway. All right, when do we see you again? I mean, do we know? Is there any kind of a plan here? Because we need you on the show, John Kachemi. We love you.
Well, we're hoping sometime in the OTAs coming up, we'll have some more Dolphin stuff to talk about. So I'll get with Lubie and we'll organize it.
Let's do it.
Sounds good. Any sign of Tommy Fox? I mean, have you talked to him? I haven't heard from this guy in years, man. I'm living in his old place, and no sign of him.
I will reach out to Tom later today. That's for sure.
All right. Sounds good. Looking good, kid. How'd you shoot this weekend?
You know what? Surprisingly, I overachieved on the golf course, which was nice. Yeah, so I was able to get a couple shackles and move on. I was able to afford going down and buying some beers down in Key Largo.
What kind of money are we talking about playing for here?
Very little, Defo.
Very little? Yeah.
Very little. Yeah, I don't want to risk a lot, but it was a fun day with the boys out at Grand Oaks. That's
you never taught golf somewhere? Have a PGA card you could have substituted for Patrick Cantlay, that dog?
No,
that I had in the pool.
Gosh,
oh my God.
That was a huge disappointment. Between him and Scotty Scheffler, that was it.
I had them both. You did better with Tiger. And I was saying, oh my God, John, you of all people, how did you get sucked in on this Tiger thing? And then he shot that one under on the second day.
My philosophy was, if I'm not going to go with the greatest player, arguably the greatest player that ever played the game, and in a major that's never missed a cut, really, I got to go with him, right?
Casey Martin was, in better shape to walk the course, and of course that was a big debate over whether he should have a card. Let Tiger have a card. I'm surprised they didn't immediately institute a new rule there. This Johnson guy, the president of the PGA, saying it was okay for him to not only ride on a cart, but have, lie improvement, which is one of my favorite considerations in golf. Lie improvement, I think, is an essential if you're going to play a good game.
You're not cheating if you're not trying.
Do I get relief on that?
Absolutely.
Look at that. There's a stone right there. I don't want to break my club. All right, John. Have a great time. We look forward to talking to you again. It's always a pleasure, my friend. And thanks so much for being with us here today.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, John Kajemi, ladies and gentlemen. You had some info on the Dolphins, man. I was thinking there was really little to talk about with regard to football, period. I'm not following the USFL at all. No. I know the professor has been killing it.
Wow. He's doing well.
Who's that quarterback that he hates?
Trey Patterson. He was a guy that was a huge recruit, went to Michigan, then went to Ole Miss, and he ended up being a massive bust. And he's the same with the USFL. Ken's gone against him every week.
Every week and wins. I mean, see, that's what you have to do. And then money management, we mentioned it. That's a Mark Laurentian type of principle, money management, which I don't abide by at all, right? Because if you were thinking about it strategically, you would make moves that actually made financial sense and weren't destined to lead you on a path to financial ruin. What do you think, Lubie? I mean, you're going to have some hard times when you're a degenerate gambler. You're going to go like through series and some of the toughest beats that you can imagine.
Yep.
Photos, lost by the smallest of nose hair margins. Reversals by Stewart's inquiries. Team putting a meaningless 3 up there at the last second. There, a guy just flings the ball from half court, and guess what? Oh, look at that! It goes in, and that makes it 109-105. And you were getting 4.5. I mean, come on. Unbelievable. Anyway, it was great being with you. Had a lot of fun. Peel yourself off the map Monday. I'm going to be peeling myself out of the country at the end of the week here, Lubie. So I'll be with you guys through Thursday, and then Lubie's going to have an assortment of different things happening here on the program. So looking forward to that, and I hope. Well, you've been trusted with these things in the past.
Yes, I've done it a few times now.
Yeah. Although it's 6 hours later there, so I actually, but I'm not inclined to take all of this stuff on the road. Huh? Be a little rough clearing customs. Wow, what is that in your bag, sir? All right. Remember when we were carrying that radio gear? They always thought we were like, Iranian terrorists or something. Yeah,
it was never the dream.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you tomorrow at 7. Thanks, people, for tuning in. I'm Jeff Deforrest for Mike Lubie Lubitz. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks to the people at Ion Channel for carrying the show. And we'll see you tomorrow at 7 as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:06.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done.